Humanity had never faced a threat like this. The Galactic Empire, a colossus spanning thousands of star systems, had deemed Earth a target. The ultimatum was delivered with cold precision: unconditional surrender or complete annihilation. The message reverberated across the globe, shaking humanity to its core. Governments scrambled to respond, but fear and uncertainty reigned. The Empire's emissary, High Admiral Zaltar, had made it clear they were not negotiating. Earth was a nuisance, a backwater planet barely worth conquering, yet they would do so to send a message to other would-be resistors. In the shadow of this threat, Earth's leaders convened. The United Nations General Assembly transformed overnight into a war council. Representatives argued endlessly, their voices rising with panic. Some pushed for immediate surrender, arguing that humanity stood no chance against a civilization that could traverse galaxies. Others, defiant to the end, demanded resistance, even if it meant extinction. The stalemate dragged on as the Empire's deadline loomed. Among the chaos, Evelyn Kane stood silently, observing. A former historian turned diplomat, she was no stranger to humanity's darker chapters. While others debated strategies and survival, she saw an opportunity, a slim but vital chance to turn the tide. When the room quieted briefly, her voice cut through the tension. "They think we're weak," she began, her tone calm but resolute. "They think we're a divided species with no understanding of what war truly means. They couldn't be more wrong." Heads turned toward her. Some were curious, others skeptical. She continued, her confidence unwavering. "We have something they don't: history. A history forged in blood, loss, and survival. If they want to know who we are, we'll show them. Not with weapons, but with the truth of what humanity has endured, and what we're capable of." The room erupted into murmurs. Some dismissed her as naive, others clung to her words as a lifeline. The president of the Global Council, an aging diplomat with a weary expression, leaned forward. "And what exactly do you propose, Ms. Kane?" Evelyn explained her plan with the precision of someone who had rehearsed this moment in her mind. She would meet the Empire's representatives and present them with a comprehensive account of humanity's wars, triumphs, and tragedies. Not to boast, but to warn. "Let them see," she said, "what happens when humanity is pushed to its limits." The room fell silent. The enormity of her suggestion weighed heavily on everyone. After a long pause, the president nodded. "You have my approval. God help us all." Preparations began immediately. A small delegation was assembled, and a hastily refitted diplomatic vessel was prepared. The ship, while unimpressive compared to the Empire's warships, carried the hopes of an entire planet. Evelyn stood aboard, her gaze fixed on the stars as the engines roared to life. The weight of her mission settled on her shoulders, but she felt no fear, only determination. As the ship ascended, humanity watched from below. News networks broadcast her departure, framing it as a desperate gamble. Some called her a hero, others called her a fool. But Evelyn paid no mind to the opinions of those who had already given up. Her focus was singular: to show the Empire what it truly meant to be human. The journey to the Empire's designated meeting point was brief but tense. The crew, though small, worked tirelessly to ensure every detail of Evelyn's presentation was flawless. Data banks were filled with carefully selected images, videos, and records, an unflinching chronicle of humanity's history. Evelyn reviewed them endlessly, ensuring each moment would strike the right balance of truth and impact. As they approached the Empire's flagship, the scale of their task became evident. The vessel was a behemoth, a city-sized fortress glinting with alien technology. It dwarfed their ship, a reminder of the power imbalance they faced. Yet Evelyn felt no intimidation. Instead, she steeled herself for the confrontation ahead. Upon docking, the delegation was greeted by a squad of Empire soldiers, their imposing figures adorned with ornate armor. They escorted Evelyn and her team through gleaming corridors filled with alien grandeur. Every step felt heavier as they neared the chamber where High Admiral Zaltar awaited. Evelyn's heart pounded, but her resolve never faltered. She knew what was at stake. This wasn't just a negotiation, it was humanity's last chance to avoid extinction. And she intended to make every word count. Evelyn Kane stepped into the grand chamber aboard the Empire's flagship, her boots clicking softly against the polished obsidian floor. The room was massive, its walls adorned with holographic depictions of past imperial conquests. Towering over her was High Admiral Zaltar, his reptilian form draped in ceremonial armor that gleamed under the cold light. His piercing gaze swept over her with the disdain of a predator sizing up insignificant prey. "So, this is humanity's champion?" Zaltar's voice rumbled, his tone thick with mockery. "A single emissary to speak for an entire species? Tell me, human, do your people send lambs to negotiate with wolves?" Evelyn met his gaze without flinching, her expression calm but firm. "My people send those who understand the stakes, Admiral. I requested this meeting to give you the courtesy of knowing who you're about to provoke." The chamber echoed with laughter from the Imperial Council seated around Zaltar. Their ornate robes and elaborate adornments signified their positions of power, and their expressions mirrored his contempt. One of them, a silver-skinned alien with piercing black eyes, leaned forward. "You dare to suggest that your primitive world is a threat to the Empire? Bold words for a species still crawling out of its cradle." Evelyn remained composed. "Primitive, perhaps, by your standards. But if you grant me the chance, I'll show you that humanity is far from weak." Zaltar raised a clawed hand, silencing the murmurs of his council. His smirk betrayed his amusement. "You intrigue me, human. You may speak, though I doubt you have anything worth our time." She nodded, signaling her team to activate the holographic projector. The lights dimmed as the first image appeared, a spinning globe, Earth, bathed in a soft blue glow. Evelyn began, her voice steady and deliberate. "This is our home, a planet of beauty and chaos, of life and struggle. For millennia, we have fought each other, not because we enjoy violence but because survival demanded it. Let me show you what that means." The projection shifted, displaying scenes of ancient warfare. Spears clashed against shields as armies marched across barren landscapes. Evelyn described battles from humanity's earliest days, from the siege of Troy to the conquests of Alexander the Great. The council watched, their initial amusement giving way to mild curiosity. "You may think these conflicts primitive," she continued, "but even then, we learn to innovate, to adapt, to endure." The holograms transitioned to the Middle Ages, depicting knights in armor, castles under siege, and the relentless brutality of medieval warfare. Evelyn's voice hardened. "As civilizations grew, so did the scale of our wars. We learned to wield fire, steel, and ingenuity to overcome enemies stronger than ourselves." A council member scoffed. "Child's play. Your species has yet to face true war." Evelyn didn't falter. "Then let me show you the wars that nearly ended us." The imagery shifted again, this time to the trenches of World War I. The council's expressions began to change as they saw soldiers enduring gas attacks, machine gun fire, and endless barrages of artillery. Evelyn described the horrors of the Great War, the millions who perished, the scars it left on the world. "This," she said, her voice low, "was when we learned the cost of hubris. When we realized that war is not glory, it is survival at any price." The holograms moved to World War II, showcasing vast fleets, roaring tanks, and mushroom clouds rising ominously into the sky. Gasps rippled through the council as they witnessed the devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. "Here is where we unlock the power to end worlds," Evelyn said, her tone sharp. "Nuclear fire became our weapon of choice, and with it came the knowledge that one mistake could mean extinction." Zaltar's smirk had vanished, replaced by a furrowed brow. The council members shifted uneasily, their earlier arrogance dimming. Evelyn continued, her momentum building. "But we didn't stop there. When nations couldn't defeat us with brute force, they tried to break us from within. Guerrilla warfare, insurgencies, cyber warfare, we adapted to every challenge. No empire, no matter how mighty, has ever truly defeated humanity. We fight not just to win but to outlast, to rise from the ashes again and again." Her final holograms displayed modern conflicts, from drone strikes to urban combat, illustrating humanity's ability to blend technology with relentless determination. She stepped closer to the council, her voice now a quiet but undeniable force. You believe you can conquer us because your ships are larger, your weapons more advanced. But war isn't won with tools, it's won with resolve. And no species understands that better than humans. We've fought wars we didn't want, wars we couldn't afford, and wars we should have lost. Yet here we are. The chamber was silent, the council frozen in their seats. Evelyn's gaze swept over them, her presence commanding despite the stark power imbalance. We didn't come here to beg for mercy, she said, her voice unwavering. We came here to warn you. If you choose war with humanity, you'll learn the same lesson every empire in our history has learned. We don't just fight to survive, we fight to ensure our enemies don't. Zaltar leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. The silence stretched, heavy and oppressive. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and measured. Your presentation was enlightening, human. Perhaps we underestimated your species. Evelyn didn't respond. She had said everything she needed to. Now, it was up to the Empire to decide whether to heed her warning, or face the consequences. The room was silent as Evelyn Kane stood at the center of the chamber, her voice steady as the holograms shifted to the next chapter of humanity's history. The tranquil scenes of Earth were replaced by the brutality of war. The Council's faint curiosity had turned into an uneasy tension as they watched humanity's story unfold. You might think our violence is primitive, Evelyn began, her tone firm but devoid of arrogance. But what you'll see now isn't just war. It's a chronicle of survival, adaptation, and an unrelenting will to endure. The holograms displayed the chaos of ancient warfare, Roman legions clashing with barbarian hordes, the fiery destruction of Carthage, the Mongol Empire sweeping across continents. Evelyn narrated each image with precision, her words cutting through the tension. For centuries, we waged war to claim resources, secure territory, and expand empires. But even in victory, we learned that war comes at a cost. The visuals transitioned to the industrial era. The Council watched as humanity's wars grew larger and deadlier. The Battle of the Somme flashed across the hologram, a harrowing tableau of trenches, mud, and endless artillery fire. Evelyn's voice sharpened. This was the First World War, a conflict so massive it was meant to end all wars. It didn't. Instead, it showed us the horrifying efficiency of killing when industry and innovation are turned into weapons. Their unease deepened as Evelyn detailed the millions of lives lost in what should have been humanity's breaking point. The holograms shifted again, showing tanks rolling across battlefields, fighter planes streaking through the skies, and bombs leveling entire cities. But we didn't stop, Evelyn said. Because we couldn't. The Second World War was even worse. Entire nations rose and fell in the span of a few years, driven by ideologies and ambitions that consumed the lives of millions. She gestured as the image of Hiroshima appeared, a serene city replaced by the hellish glow of a nuclear explosion. The silence in the chamber was palpable. And then, we created this, she said, her voice heavy with the weight of the moment. The atom bomb. With it, we gained the power to destroy ourselves and everything around us. We used it, knowing the cost, because we believed the alternative was worse. The hologram lingered on the aftermath of the bombings, the haunting silhouettes of cities reduced to rubble, the suffering of survivors. One of the council members, a gray-skinned alien with a voice like crushed gravel, finally spoke. You use such power against your own kind. Why would you risk annihilation? Evelyn's gaze never wavered. Because we understood something you clearly don't. Sometimes, survival requires unthinkable sacrifices. We made them, and we remember them, so we don't have to make them again. But don't mistake our restraint for weakness. The images moved to the Cold War, where the specter of nuclear annihilation loomed over the planet. Evelyn explained the doctrine of mutually assured destruction, the delicate balance that kept the world from plunging into chaos. For decades, we lived on the brink, knowing one misstep could end everything. Yet we endured. We built alliances. We created systems to contain the chaos. The Council watched as footage of proxy wars, espionage, and political standoffs played out on the hologram. Evelyn highlighted the Cuban Missile Crisis, the closest humanity ever came to nuclear war. Even when faced with certain destruction, we didn't blink. We found ways to resolve conflicts without tearing ourselves apart. But don't mistake that for a lack of resolve. If push, we will fight, and we will fight to the end. The tone of the presentation shifted as Evelyn began discussing modern warfare. Drone strikes lit up the hologram, showcasing humanity's ability to combine advanced technology with tactical precision. Today, we fight wars not just on battlefields but in cyberspace, in economies, and in the shadows. We've learned that war isn't just about weapons, it's about strategy, resilience, and outthinking the enemy. Her words were measured, but there was an undeniable edge to her tone. The Council could no longer mask their discomfort. The visuals shifted to a montage of guerrilla warfare, showcasing how underdog forces resisted and defeated seemingly invincible powers. Even when outmatched, we've found ways to win. We've faced invaders, conquerors, and tyrants, and we've outlasted them all. Because humans don't give up. We adapt. We persevere. She let that sink in before delivering the final blow. The hologram displayed the faces of soldiers, leaders, and civilians, humanity's warriors, thinkers, and survivors. War isn't glorious to us. It's not a source of pride. It's a tragedy we've endured over and over again because the alternative was extinction. But it's also made us what we are, a species that doesn't back down, that refuses to be dominated, and that will do whatever it takes to protect its own. The chamber felt heavier than ever, the Council members visibly unsettled. Evelyn took a step forward, her voice soft but unyielding. You look at us and see a primitive species. I'm here to show you that you're wrong. We've fought wars we didn't want, wars we couldn't win, and wars that should have destroyed us. But we're still here. She paused, letting her words linger in the air. If you think you can conquer us because you have bigger ships and better weapons, then you've learned nothing from this history. Humanity doesn't just survive war. We are war. Evelyn stepped back, the holograms fading into darkness. The Council didn't speak, their silence more telling than any words. She had shown them the truth of humanity, and now the decision was theirs. The chamber remained eerily silent after Evelyn's final words. The images of humanity's bloody history had left the Galactic Empire's council visibly shaken. High Admiral Zaltar, who had maintained his air of arrogance throughout the presentation, now sat motionless. His golden eyes, once filled with disdain, betrayed a glimmer of uncertainty. One council member finally broke the silence, their voice sharp and trembling. This species is reckless. Their history is a testament to chaos. They've survived by chance, not strength. Another council member, a towering figure with crystalline skin, interjected. No, it's not chance. It's their adaptability. Their willingness to endure losses others would never accept. They've built their entire identity around surviving the impossible. Zaltar raised a clawed hand, silencing the debate. His gaze locked onto Evelyn, who stood composed, unflinching under the weight of his scrutiny. You've given us much to consider, human, he said, his voice measured but strained. But I must ask, why show us this? Why reveal your darkest truths instead of pleading for peace? Evelyn didn't hesitate. Because peace born from fear isn't peace, it's submission. And humanity doesn't submit. If you choose war, we want you to understand exactly what you're walking into. This isn't a plea. It's a warning. The council erupted into murmurs, their voices blending into an indecipherable cacophony. Evelyn stepped back, letting them deliberate. She had said everything she intended to say. Now, the decision rested with them. The council's debate was fierce. Some argued that humanity was too dangerous to allow to exist, advocating for immediate annihilation. Others saw the warning as a calculated show of strength, a message that humanity wasn't worth the cost of subjugation. Zaltar listened intently, his expression unreadable. Finally, the admiral rose from his seat, his towering frame commanding immediate attention. The room fell silent once more. He turned to Evelyn, his tone unreadable. Your presentation has painted a vivid picture of your species, one that is both disturbing and intriguing. You are more dangerous than we anticipated. Evelyn met his gaze, her voice steady. Dangerous, yes. But only when provoked. We didn't come here to seek conflict. We came to make it clear that conflict with us would not end in your victory. Zaltar's claws tapped rhythmically against the arm of his chair, a subtle gesture that betrayed his inner conflict. And yet your history suggests that your kind thrives in war. It seems almost inevitable. Evelyn allowed a brief smile, devoid of warmth. We've learned to survive war, Admiral. But we don't seek it. Our resilience is a response to necessity, not a preference. The Admiral considered her words carefully before addressing the Council. This human speaks of survival and resolve. Their species has endured trials we can scarcely imagine. To engage them in war would not be conquest, it would be attrition, a slow bleed that may cost us more than we can afford. A council member objected. We cannot allow such a species to roam unchecked. Their very existence is a threat to the Empire. Zaltar silenced them with a glare. A threat, yes. But a manageable one, if handled with care. Humanity's history is written in blood, but their presence suggests a desire for something more. If we strike now, we risk igniting a fire that could consume us all. He turned back to Evelyn. You have given us much to think about, human. For now, the Empire will withdraw its ultimatum. But understand this, we will be watching. If your species proves itself to be the chaotic force your history suggests, we will act decisively. Evelyn inclined her head. We expect nothing less, Admiral. And if you ever decide to test us, know that we will respond with everything we are. With that, the meeting concluded. Evelyn and her delegation were escorted back to their ship in silence, the weight of what had transpired settling over them. As the ship disengaged from the Empire's flagship and began its journey back to Earth, Evelyn reflected on the encounter. Humanity had bought itself time, but the threat of the Empire loomed as a constant shadow. Back on Earth, Evelyn's presentation was broadcast to the world. The footage of her calm defiance and the Empire's response inspired a wave of unity across the planet. Nations set aside their differences, pooling resources and knowledge to prepare for whatever came next. For the first time in decades, humanity stood as one, driven by the knowledge that their survival depended on their collective strength. In the weeks that followed, the Empire's fleet withdrew from Earth's orbit, their ultimatum rescinded. The skies above the planet returned to their familiar stillness, but no one took the peace for granted. Humanity began fortifying its defenses, advancing its technology, and preparing for a future where the Empire might return. Evelyn Kane became a symbol of humanity's resilience, her name etched into history alongside the wars she had so vividly recounted. She knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but for the first time in generations, she felt a cautious hope. Humanity had faced the abyss and emerged with its head held high. As she stood on the observation deck of Earth's newly unified command center, Evelyn gazed at the stars, her mind already turning to the next challenge. The Empire might have withdrawn for now, but their shadow would always linger. Humanity's story wasn't over, it was just beginning. And if the galaxy wanted to test them again, Evelyn knew they would be ready.